Well, I thought he was a genius. I really did. I thought so highly of him. Uh, I just started. I've just started watching wrestling in earnest again the last month or so, and we can talk about that next. In the next podcast. But by and large, I'm really happy with the way the product's looking. I have to start looking into AEW some more. But when my children were all watching, and I would watch too, I would watch it kind of in the background, and I would multitask, and I would do different things sitting on the couch. So I'm still part of the family atmosphere for 3 hours every Monday night, but I would largely be working on other things. And it was really Bray Wyatt that would make me put all my stuff down. And I would just sit and stare at that screen. And I was transfixed. And I think that's the way so many people were when they watched him. He was just I like he may have borrowed from me, but if he's borrowing from me, he's borrowing from Terry. But he makes it his own.
Yes,
that's the key. Before the Bray Wyatt character debuted on WWE, I do not think Florida. I don't think developmental had yet gone to Orlando. I'm not sure on that.
they were in Orlando, but it wasn't. It was on Hulu, so it wasn't.
Oh, it's on Hulu. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was not being seen by nearly as big an audience.
Right.
And so when he was at TV, he told me he'd been working on something and that he was doing these promos in a rocking chair. And he alluded to the promo I cut on Randy Orton in a rocking chair. I only did it once, and it's like it's there for the taking. That's the thing. It's like the stuff I do is it's there to be borrowed from. So it made me so proud to see him in that rocking chair and to think that I may have, influenced that in some way. And every once in a while, after a big match, he'd pull me aside. He goes, he would point out the match where he got an idea from. And I think the biggest thing for me in Bray's career was Paul Heyman asking me, calling me up, Cactus, we'd like to give Bray Wyatt the mandible claw. And I said, I love it. And he goes, and we'd like you to take it on TV. I said, I love that even more. And so if there's a way to get the move over to her, it's to do it on the guy who's known for it.
Yes.
So aside from everything he did in the ring, he was really a great presence backstage. He was a nice guy. I don't know how many people know this, but he smelled great. He really did. And I'm just a Tom's of Maine deodorant guy, but it wasn't an overpowering cologne, but he smelled great, and he had this voluminous shine in his beard. I asked him if he used any products, because if he did, I had the big beard, for 10 years. And he just had this gleam in his eye. And I thought, it's a good thing he's got the Fiend that he came back to, because I thought he would suffer the same fate that I had, which is not a bad fate. It just changes things for you, in that people will eventually come to the conclusion about him that they did about me. He's got nice eyes. He's got kind eyes. And, he was such a great promo that he could cover that up for the longest time. But I think the world would have realized sooner or later that this was a nice man. But I thought he was a genius. I go back to when I wrestled Mike Rotunda, his dad, in 1990. That was the biggest angle I'd had up until that day when I turned, up until that time, when I turned on Mike Rotunda after a tag team match. And it turned him babyface. And then we went around the loop. We probably wrestled 30, 40 times. So, I knew his dad well, and I was so happy when I heard that his son was getting into wrestling. And it was like, if you thought he was going to come out as, a member of the varsity club and following his dad's footsteps to a T, he took a different path. And it was beautiful, untraveled path, and he did it. Man, he did it so well. He did it so well, and he was constantly evolving. I know there were some people who thought that he wasn't booked well, but I thought he got time on TV, and that no loss was going to really hurt him, with the exception of the quick loss to Goldberg. I don't think that's what anyone wanted to see. But he was not someone who was going to be defined by a loss. He was going to come back. He was going to find ways to reinvent himself. I'm just so sorry for his family. 36 years old. I had just come off the plane, Conrad, and I'd worked on that story about Terry for about an hour in the airport and another couple hours in the on the flight itself. And when I came off, the first person I talked to is Terry Funk's daughter, and we talked about the Cactus Mick subject, and then I got a text saying that Bray Wyatt had passed away, and I was just spend the worst couple of days. I'm glad I'm here on here talking about it, so I'm not thinking about it. I'm going to hustle off to a Comic-Con here in just a few minutes, but I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. I know that the people who did spend the time with him, the guys who were in Florida Championship Wrestling with him and later NXT, they rave about him as a human being. And he was good to people. And that's as important or more important to me than what you do in the ring is what you do backstage and how you treat people, especially when you've made it. And he was a really good man.
He was a great man, loved by all. You've called him before a true visionary and a creative genius. And anyone and everyone that worked with him, either in front of the camera or behind the scenes in WWE, would tell you the same thing. And if there's any connective tissue between Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk, it goes beyond just the fact that they were wrestlers. It goes just beyond the fact that they were legacy performers. I don't think it gets talked about enough, but his brother's Bo Dallas, of course, his father was IRS in the WWF. And of course, his grandfather was Blackjack Mulligan, just a true icon. And of course, his uncle was Barry Windham. I mean, this is a true great wrestling family, just like the Funks. But beyond that, man, you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who had anything bad to say about either one of these individuals, whether it's Terry Funk or Bray Wyatt. It feels like within the industry, amongst their peers, they weren't universally well liked. They were universally loved.
Yeah.
And just gone way, way too soon. You know, it sounds cliche. Our thoughts and prayers go to the Bray Wyatt family and his entire family, as well as the young family he leaves behind. And Mick, I don't know if you've seen this, but WWE has decided they're donating 100% every nickel of the merch that sells for Bray Wyatt directly to Bray's family.
That's great. Like we've seen the salaries have escalated so much in the last few years, but Bray was out I don't think he came in with a big salary. He was out for a lengthy period of time. I don't know and even with a great salary, you need 3 or 4 of those big years before you start looking at retirement type money. And I'm really happy to hear that, because you're talking about 4 children. Like you said, JoJo was his fiance, and it's a great thing that they're doing. I really appreciate hearing that.